All right, let's practice a little bit more and get into an application. If you want to move on to the next video, if you feel that like this is easy, go ahead. Bye-bye. Otherwise, pause the video, try this problem on your own and see what we've got. So it looks a little different than what we had before. We've got x's on both sides of the equation now, but don't worry. I did say that other than multiplying or dividing by a negative, everything's the same. So let's get all the x's on one side and all the numbers on the other. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. So 6 is now less than or equal to 18 plus 3x. Subtract 18 from both sides. Negative 12 is less than or equal to 3x. Divide both sides by 3 and get negative 4 is less than or equal to x. Now be very careful, because if we're plotting this on the number line, and let's say this is negative 4, very tempting to say, I see a less than or equal to sign. We're over here. But that's not the case, right? If negative 4 is smaller than x, that's the same thing as x being bigger than negative 4, right? If I'm taller than you, you are shorter than me. The order matters, right? So these are the same thing, and both of them are fine. But usually it's easier for us if we take a moment and just make sure that we know what we're talking about. Negative 4 is smaller than x. X is bigger than negative 4. So if we did graph it on the number line, we could use brackets or a closed circle and get everything over here. Our answer in interval notation is negative 4 up to positive infinity. You could also have moved the x's over to the other side and not have to deal with this flip-flop. So your choice. Do you want to keep things positive or do you want to keep x's on the right? And we could check our answer. Any number in this interval should make this inequality true. 0 is in this interval. This is a good way to check whether you got your flip-flopping right, the direction of your inequality right. Right? 0 should be an answer. It's in the interval. Right? 0 is over here on the number line. If we plug in 0, is this equation true? Is 6 less than or equal to 18? Yup. Yes, it is. 6 is smaller than 18. Great. Did I box my answer? I did. So now we have a company spending $1,200 per day on overhead and labor, and each item they produce costs about $5 of material. If they sell those items for $15 each, how many items are they going to need to sell for the profits to be positive? We're really looking for a break-even point, but when we have not lines anymore, when we have more complicated functions, positive profits is not necessarily the same as break-even points. So let's answer this question. So we want profits to be positive. We're going to need to find profit. Well, profit is revenue minus the cost. So to find the profit, we got to find the revenue and the cost. What's our revenue here? Well, 15 for every item. What are we calling items? You could use X. I'll use Q. Q is number of items sold. And let's assume it's the same as the number of items we're producing. So that's our revenue. What's our cost function? Well, we always have those fixed costs of $1,200 every day. And each item is going to give us an additional cost, that variable cost. It's going to be $5 for every item. So we can use those to find our profit. Our revenue minus the cost. And again, make sure we're subtracting the entire cost function. Right? It's not, the formula is not revenue minus part of the cost. The formula is revenue minus all of the cost. Those parentheses are important. Our profit is 15Q minus 1,200 minus 5Q, which simplifies down to profit is just 10Q minus 1,200. Some people may jump directly here for their profit, right? They say, well, I'm selling it for 15, it costs $5, I'm profiting $10 per item. And I know I'm always losing that 1,200. But this is a longer way that we've been doing it. Takes more steps, but it's shorter steps, less confusing for a lot of people. But everyone solves math problems different ways. So we want profits to be positive. So P is 0. When is P 0? Well, P is the same thing as 10Q minus 1200. So asking when is profits positive is the same thing as asking when 10Q minus 1200 is positive. Because P, our profits, is exactly 10Q minus 1200. And now we can just add 1200 to both sides. And divide both sides by positive 10, so no funny business. Only you have to reverse the inequality when we have multiplication or division by a negative number. So how many items do they have to sell for their profits to be positive? Well, we'll break even at 120, but it's going to be positive profits when we sell more than 120. All right. That's going to be our answer. Let me know if you have any questions. You can also graph this profit function and see it that way, or graph the revenue and the cost functions and see it that way. Lots of different ways of doing it. And in the next time, in the next video, in the next section, we're going to talk about how to solve two inequalities at the same time. Fun. All right. Bye-bye.